So the questions I have today, one is, what should I do when my child refuses to do something, even if they're capable of it? And this is one that yeah, I find quite fascinating because it's really hard to wrap your head around things where you're like, okay, how can they do this one day? And then another day they can't. So, like my child, if I think about cooking, I have one kid that there's times where I'll come down and he has made everybody lunch. He'll come down or he'll even come up and go, did you want this or this and your whatever, your salad, your egg, whatever he's making for me, right? And my sandwich, whatever he's putting together, he'll ask and he can put all of this stuff together. Like he can make fried rice. He's really good in the kitchen. And then there's other days where he just can't. He'll open the fridge and there's nothing to eat there when like our fridge is packed. Like there's so many options and I know there's things that he likes to eat. And it's very frustrating because you also can see that he's struggling. He's not always keeping his calm and he's not as engaged. As I say, he's not necessarily a human being at this moment. And that's where we have to start looking at the learning ladder. And the learning ladder is something where we have this ideal or this idea of where our child should be. And for some reason, we have been taught, which I find this fascinating, we have been taught that just because we can do something on a certain day, a certain behavior, a certain mood, a certain like math problems, certain English problems, just because sleep might be easier, doing our chores or whatever it is easy on most days, or very capable. These kids are very capable of doing it. That we've been put under this belief that they should be able to do this every single day. And the piece that's missing from that is understanding the fact that we have this other part of our brain. So we have the one part of our brain that is like the academic, that kind of like, okay, we've got these base math skills, we've got these English literary skills. We've got all these things in this one part of our brain, the academic side. But the steps to do things, to actually execute on all of those things that we know how to do, requires the executive functioning part of our brain. And that's the part of our brain that when we are stressed, when we are tired, when our nervous system is firing because we've had a lot more stressors, when we haven't had enough sleep, that part of our brain gets affected. So we think of this like a ladder, and we're thinking of the ladder, the top thing is getting yourself breakfast or lunch, which my kids do. I homeschool. So like they do breakfast and lunch every day. Same thing, laundry, right? Like they know my one son today's his laundry day. The other one was yesterday, right? And there are days that they're boom, 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 wake up, laundry goes in, not a problem. They change their load, they fold it, they're good, it all goes away. And there's other days where it's a disaster. And so if we think of this learning ladder end goal, we have to think, how taxed are they, right? What has been taxing their stress system? And what are they capable of today? And there are days where this child of mine that is so capable in getting food requires me to get it for him, and actually even something so simple that he can only like sip, or maybe just have a couple of forkfuls in his mouth of like whatever, cut up mangoes, cut up fruit, something that I know is going to give him like a quick glucose rush, which I'm a nutrition coach. I wouldn't normally say you should only eat like high sugar glucose foods or anything, but I will just hand him a juice or hand him something to start getting his glucose up a bit, to take that hungry off of him in order to start helping him become a human, so that I can then get healthier food in him. And I sometimes still have to bring it to him. There's other times where after I give him like a juice, or if I give him like a fruit that he really likes or something, that he will get up off the couch or his bedroom or wherever he is and come down to the table to eat. But there's sometimes where even on that ladder, he still can't do it. And that's the thing. We've just been so brought up to believe that just because you can do something one day, you should be able to have the energy, the bandwidth, the skill to do it all of the time. And we have to think of how much these kids are being hit with. So we can growth spurt, they're being flooded with so many hormones. And if we think of us as females and we think of just how around our cycle, or sometimes when we're like ovulating, or right now for me, like I just went 79 days without my cycle and I was so excited. I'm like, yay, this might be my 365 time. And then day 80 hit and it came, but I realized all last week I was a little moodier. I was struggling to get things done. I'm not as creative. I've always known, always in the office, when my cycle was regular, I always knew to track it. And I knew that that week, especially for me, day 24, I knew to never ever do anything creative, or I wouldn't do any big projects, anything that I really needed to think in the office. That's when I do just the day-to-day easy tasks in my office. And sometimes I even struggled with those days. So this even happens to us as adults. And we have been taught you should just push through, but I've been like, no way, right? I know day 24 is, I'm not going to go and have a meeting with my staff that is like a huge meeting with them, that I need to think and manage the staff and work through everything. I'm not going to put something big or tough on my day on that day, because I know I'm already going to struggle. But I know that once my cycle comes, brain's good, I'm clear, right? Like it's phenomenal how that happens to us. So we relate that now to kids with growth spurts. The hormones going through them every day is going to decrease their executive functioning abilities. And some days are going to be worse than others, depending on, how their sleep was, how much their body is spending that time and energy. Even think of pregnancy, right? If you think of when you were growing a baby in you, the time and energy that took, like that first trimester before people know that you're pregnant, like uh, sometimes, like, I know my brain fog was horrible, horrible. I couldn't think, I couldn't do anything. Like the amount of energy that was taking made that executive functioning part of my brain, the part that made decisions, the part that planned, the part that organized, the plan that regulated my moods, the part that had attention, that perceived things so that I wasn't flying off the handle. Things that, just all of that stuff, like your nonverbal working memory is those visuals in your brain. I forgot words. I would open the fridge, not be able to see what was in it when I was pregnant. Like it was crazy, so crazy. And we think that's what these kids are going through when they have a growth spurt, right? So these are the things that can be happening and we don't think about it, but when they're going through those, they are going to struggle doing things. So growth spurt's one thing. There's also all kinds of other stressors. When we have these really cool kids with the superpower of this amazing hearing, or visually what they can take in can be such a superpower in so many things in their life and in their career. And at the same time, it can be their kryptonite, where they are beyond exhausted, where that executive functioning part of their brain, because they are so flooded with the visual or flooded with the auditory, that they cannot focus, they cannot concentrate, they get irritated, and it just sets them off. So a whole day of that at school can be too much. And they're, reading, trying to read other people. If there's somebody that feels somebody else's emotions, when they're around a lot of chaos during the day, which can be a schoolyard, a classroom, that can drain them so much that things they can do at the beginning of the day, they can't do at the end. So we start thinking about this learning ladder and thinking about what has that child done. We may have had a really fun party the night before and had a bunch of sugar at night, and up later the next day, that executive functioning system is not going to work, and they're cognitively not going to be able to do the same things they were doing before. So when they can do math problems and show it all on paper, when they can start assignments easily, on another day they may not, and we have to start diving in. Could it be synthetic fragrances? I know that's one for me and one of my kids. It is not for a lot of people, but those of us that are affected by synthetic fragrances, I can't go down a soap aisle. I used to remember going grocery shopping and going down the soap aisle or the aisles on either side my brain instantly gets foggy. I get angry. Like if I had the kids with me, it's when I start getting irritated with them and short with them. And I can't even think about what I need. All I can think about is I need to get out of this store. And I've always hated grocery shopping until I helped to strengthen my nervous system, regulate it, and all of that. Synthetic fragrances don't bother me as much as they used to, but I also have them all cleared out of our house. So I know I'm not getting them at home. I only get them when I am going grocery shopping or to a shopping mall or somewhere where people are wearing perfumes and sprays. So that can be a huge, huge struggle. So I'm not sure if anybody who's listening to this, if any of you have questions on it. Definitely plop them in the chat box for me if you have any questions. I'm looking, or you can unmute yourself if that helped anybody here. Don't know if you can unmute yourself. I'm going to just put the ask to unmute for some of you guys. You can ignore it if you don't want to. Chat completely, perfectly fine. I understand the anonymity. I'm just not sure if you can be heard. If any of you do have any questions, feel free to ask them. Okay, so there's somebody that does have their microphone off, but I'm not able to hear you. And the microphone thing's not showing for me that there's sound coming through. And double check it's not on my side. Testing my mic. Yeah, my mic works. So it might be if somebody has a question. Okay, I do have one more question from somebody else that I will go through. If anybody has questions though, feel free to plop them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. It's completely up to you. Okay. How do I know when to push my child and when to back off? Ooh, okay. I love this question because this actually just came up on something as well in working with another client recently where, okay, so the thing is that we think of stress systems. Let's think of the nervous system. And let's think of this like a hurricane. Hurricane? Yes. Is it the hurricane that has an eye of the storm? I'm from Canada. We don't normally have. Okay. So hurricane where you have the eye of the storm, or tornado where you have the eye of the storm. So think of when they're having that explosion as being the hurricane, right? That's where all the air is pulling up. It's like chaos. Everything's being pulling up. You can get really injured. It's just out of control. And then we go into the eye of the storm, and that's calm. And we're like, oh, this is good. Everything's fine here. The thing is that you have to go from that eye of the storm back out through the hurricane before you have to go back out through the hurricane before you can get to that outside where the air is actually good and clear and calm and we're fine out there. So when we are when we're looking at this from a nervous system point of view, there's somebody called Stephen Porges who, if we're going into the science part of this, that created the polyvagal theory. And I'm going to use this with the stress animals. So the stress animal, we have the dolphin that is the top layer for him, where your nervous system is regulated. You're calm, you're connected, you're, engaging with everybody, you're playful, you're happy, you can tease, you can joke, you can think, you can do what's being asked of you. That is the dolphin brain, and that's his top. But underneath it is when we have the shark and the clownfish. So the shark and clownfish are where we're either ready to attack or we're like on edge, we're panicking, have the anxiety, all of that. That's that second layer. So when somebody is yelling and screaming, having a tantrum, then that is actually your second layer when we're talking about nervous system. The lower layer is actually the turtle when you're shut down. And we quite often look at somebody who's in turtle when they're shut down as being like, sometimes they're the good kid, they're the compliant kid, they're the one that does everything a teacher says. And we have to really stop and look and go, okay, are they really being a kid though? Do they know how to be a kid? Right. So my one son, my other son, so I have one that's the shark, all attack, all that. But I have this other one, the turtles. And he's the one who won't speak up for himself ever, like ever. And he's the one in senior kindergarten where the teacher said in January, like, she comes up and said, oh, he's finally talking to the other kids, not just the teachers. I'm like, oh, I didn't know he wasn't engaging with the kids. But that was all a stress response. He had turtled so much and shut down so much. And that's actually under the shark and the clownfish. So if we go back to my analogy of the hurricane, right? So we've got this hurricane, we've got the shark, we've got the clownfish. They're like, ooh, everyone's being hit by debris in this hurricane, or worrying about being hit. And that's the hurricane. But the eye of the storm is actually the turtle. That's where they're really shut down. And that is actually telling us not that they are calm and ready to talk. That's telling us that they actually went deeper. So you might find this if you have a child that gets rage, right? It could be really big rage. It could be the anger comes out, all of these things. And they've got all that going. And then after that, they're just quiet. And you're like, oh, they're quiet. I can talk now, right? Which goes to our original question is, when do I know to push and when to back off? So sometimes if they've just had a big meltdown, and that's where we're like, okay, this is when we can talk to them. This is when we can get them to do what I've been asking them to do. Maybe they'll finally pick up that sweater off the floor, or maybe they'll, finally put their dishes away, or maybe they'll finally be able to do their homework right now. The thing is we have to figure out first, did they go deeper into turtle? Did they actually go from that hurricane into the eye of the storm? Or are they actually in dolphin now? The odds are they're in the eye of the storm, or they've turtled and they're not ready yet. We had this in the podcast episode on PDA with Amanda Preston. And she talked about too, how when you have a meltdown, you go up and then this is your baseline. And then they come down and they come down under the baseline. That's where they turtle. That's the eye of the storm. And they have to come back up a little bit above baseline until they're outside of that hurricane, till they're in dolphin mode, till they're ready to connect and be calm and do what you're asking them to do, where you can give them those pushes, where you can motivate them, because we still need to be able to push and help. We need them to be able to persevere and understand how to really survive struggles, how to really survive the pressures. So we need to first try to figure out, are they in that eye, or are they in the storm, or are they actually in dolphin? And I'd say if the tantrum or the big explosion or the big panic attack just happened, the odds are they're in the eye. So wait a little bit longer. That's when you bring out all your calming tools. You feed them. You maybe just sit calmly beside them. Depending on them, they may want music. They may not. They may want like a favorite stuffy, or a favorite, like a weighted blanket, just to feel the pressure and actually just to support their nervous system. There's all kinds of things you can do. You can go for a walk with them. Just say, hey, we're not going to talk about anything. Let's just go for a walk. And you might need to do that stuff to bring them out of that eye of the storm, through the hurricane, and into the air that is calm. And if you start talking to them and they start going into the hurricane, then you know they were in the eye of the storm. But if you let them in that eye of the storm, then that storm starts to calm down, where they don't have to go through the hurricane and they can just be in the calm air. Okay. So when you're pushing them, when to back off is never, ever in the middle of the hurricane, when they're in dolphin or shark, never, ever when they're in turtle. And that's when they need that connection from you. And once, if you do test it and you see that they're escalating again, then you know that they weren't calm enough and they weren't in that dolphin and they weren't regulated enough in order to be able to push. So you really have to start understanding your child and where they're at. Okay. Any questions? I know somebody else just had a couple more that popped on. So all of you are muted. Feel free if anybody wants to unmute and chat. I have this pinned, but it's just my video, so your video will not come on, so nobody can see your face or anything. So you can stay anonymous. If you are okay with your voice, feel free to bring on to chat with me. If not, you can type in the messages as well. Any questions that you do have? Does anybody have questions on that? That was our one question on pushing them, when to push them and when to back off. And the other one was refusing to do something capable of. If any of you has any questions on that, feel free to let me know. I do have one more question that I was sent. If anybody wants, feel free. It's quiet chat today. The other day our chat was going quite a bit. Okay. Okay, so there's no questions from anybody. This chat box has changed today as well, so it's kind of interesting. Just hoping I'm not missing something on my end. Okay, so I'm going to answer the next question. If anybody does have a known question from here who is live, absolutely hop on and let me know. And I am more than happy to answer it. So the next question that I do have is, everyone says my child is smart, but they keep melting down at school. What's going on? And this goes back to, actually last week I dove deep into this, where we have a big difference between academic and executive functioning. These are two different pieces of our brain. The academic, where like they can do, math at higher levels, they can their reading is much higher level, like all of this stuff, like really higher level in that. Now with these kids as well, so when we start looking at the executive functioning, the executive functioning part of the system is where they're able to like plan their assignments, get their assignments started, where they're able to, break down all of the steps of what's being asked of them by the teacher. Okay, so somebody is trying to unmute here. Okay. I just tried. Seems like you're there. Okay, so if you're having troubles with the speakers sometimes, on your Zoom screen, if you go to the bottom where it says audio, there is a little triangle. Click on it by the audio. It's not a triangle, it's like an arrow. And click on audio settings. Audio settings, and then click on microphone and make sure that the microphone is the microphone that you're using. And you can also test it to see, sometimes even clicking off that mic if you have two mics and putting it on the other sometimes works. Now my volume's up high. I'm not seeing. Oh, there we go. I can hear something now.
Oh, good. Me?
Yes. Yes. Amazing.
I'm wondering, like, I teach kindergarten, and I know last year I really felt like I had a lot of students. I mean, I would say 5 out of 22 that I am like 99.9% positive that they have ADHD. A couple that I think may be even on the spectrum. So those executive functioning skills were a struggle. And I feel like I have a lot of background on it simply because my son, who is 22, has inattentive ADHD, and my daughter, who is almost 12, has the hyperactive ADHD. I was even diagnosed myself this past summer. So I feel like I have become, after 27 years of teaching, I have become very aware of those that have that need. Um, where I struggle is when there are that many, it's hard. I don't have a para that's in my room because none of them have a diagnosis, an IEP. So it's just me, and I feel like it's going to keep happening. I think part of it could just be because they know that I have so much experience with that, and I am perfectly fine with that. I mean, but I just struggle because it's just me, and I want to meet all of their needs, but then I have the neurotypicals that are like very ready to move on. And I don't even know how you could even help with me. I'm trying to just keep adding to my toolbox anything that I might be able to do, whether it's the sensory or uh, more pictures. I'm struggling.
Yeah. So it's definitely a loaded question because there is a lot that you can do of which you're already aware of. There are some base foundational things definitely to start off with and to try. I think last week's call, I did dive in a lot into like the flashlight and stuff like that. Um, I can go into that again. Did you hear that where I went
I
into?
know I feel like I was in last week's, but maybe it wasn't last week. I
Yeah,
don't
sure.
know.
Okay. So what happens? So if we think of ADHD, we think of the attention piece. Quite often we think it's because they are not it's sustained attention, that they need sustained attention. And the thing is that it's not sustained attention, it's actually the inability to refocus. Now, with that being said, there is I'm interviewed so much on screens. I was doing a big piece actually for our like Toronto Star newspaper currently on screens. And with the screens, what happens when we're on screens is if we think of the whiteboard in our brain. So we have this whiteboard, and on the whiteboard, so as a parent, on the whiteboard, it's like, what do our kids need to do? What's all there? What do I have to do at work? What's like anything and everything that's going on. Oh, I need to call this person today. And this has to, that's all on your whiteboard, right? And the more things on our whiteboard, the less we're able to focus. Now, when we go onto screens, what happens when we go onto screens is there's all these buttons, especially
Right.
kids stuff. But I mean, all with us, like I have two screens, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 10 tabs open right now, right? So there's 10 tabs that I can be looking at that I can switch from one to the other and see buttons and change things and change colors. And like it's all over. And all of that goes into your whiteboard. So what we're finding is that the more that we are on screens, the
Mhm.
more that our focus, our ability to refocus is decreasing. So when we
Sure.
get off of screens too, we find we're all over the place. Like when and we all keep going because people are also, this is my other thing too, is people are paid a lot of money to keep us on apps. And
Yeah.
they're doing a great job if they are. So let's let them keep doing that job. The problem is that we have not been taught, because screens, all this stuff is technically kind of newer. We've not been taught, okay, how do we, because screens will always be here, how do we learn how to have screens in a way that is going to be healthier for us? Kind of like fast food, like when fast food came out and all these other foods, we have to learn how to have fast food sometimes, but then also how to eat healthier and balanced so we can kind of meet in the middle. Same thing with exercise. We don't over exercise is bad, but under is not good. So we need to understand, which we haven't been taught, kind of like screen hygiene in a sense, to be able to
Mhm.
be helping our brains. And this hasn't been taught to any of us. This is newer. I mean, like I've been going through a lot of different research and putting it in and then trying it with my kids and with other people, and it's working. But it's not out there. Like there's not tons of research on this yet. Amishi Jha is the one that has done the most on this Peak Minds, which my book's downstairs. All on everything I'm kind of talking about right now with attention. And so what happens is we need to figure out strategies and skills, which Amishi Jha has created, to be clearing that part of our brain.
Sure.
So all this is breathing. It's breath work, but it's different kinds of breath work that we do. So I know with my kids, I always do. They always know before they go on screens, they have to do this certain type of breath work that starts to clear that whiteboard. So their whiteboard is even cleared before they get on. Also, before they go on screens, they have water and they make sure they eat a healthy meal. So I'm decreasing stressors.
Sure.
And then when they're getting off, we do the breathing as well. So there's the one thing is to start incorporating that into a classroom. And I'm actually putting together right now Amishi Jha's breathing thing, her whole breathing program. And it's like 12 minutes a day, but you can start off with 3. So you could just do 3 minutes with your kids a day.
Yeah.
And starting it and seeing how this works. That if you would like, email me.
Okay.
I'm creating this right now and I would love to test it out a little more.
Yeah.
That if you wouldn't mind, like you could try this and say, okay, Andi, this is working, this isn't working, so I can adapt it.
Yeah.
So that we can adapt it so that it's quick and easy to implement, but it's something that you're doing every day to start clearing that whiteboard of their brain. And there's different breathing things that we do, but it's all done. Like there's a free app that I'm like working on figuring out, okay, how do I adapt quickly, and giving you the steps to quickly just do it on this free app. Plop it, hit start, and you do it. And we would start with 3 minutes. And that will already, doing it on a daily basis, will do actually 2 things. The one that it'll do is start clearing their whiteboard on a daily basis. And you do that through an entire school year. And you will start finding that all of their attention and their focus will increase. And then the other thing about that too is you're actually doing repetitions for their resting nerve, which is always overpowered by their stress nerve. And that is our ability to handle stressors and to get into that heightened stress state, that as you're doing this more and more and more throughout the school year, you will find as well that they can kick themselves out of a stress state faster.
Wow, I think my daughter would really love this. Yes, this sounds amazing. It'd be a great way to start the school year.
Yeah, if you don't mind emailing me, because it's
Sure.
on my list. I was hoping to get it done this weekend, but now I have to do all kinds of other stuff for my son's curling team. I'm an off-ice curling coach, and I have to do the and because I do all performance coaching too, so I was just like,
Oh my goodness.
so I'm helping them with all of their off-ice training, and I have to get all the kids doing their fitness assessments and getting them all off. They're actually going for the what's it called? Well, provincials, but they're also going for the winter games as well this year.
Wow.
So yeah, so I need to get them all prepped and prepared. So that just took over this weekend because I was hoping to have it done this weekend. So hopefully next week I'll have it done. But if you email me as soon as it's done, I'd love for you to try it and test it. And feedback. I want to know what is and isn't working so I can keep adapting it. But it's all based on Amishi Jha's research and what she has found scientifically proven to start clearing that whiteboard of the brain. So let me know if anybody else who's listening to this wants it too. Just email me. And what I would ask in return for you trying it out is literal, real feedback back and forth would be great.
You bet.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the one piece. The other thing that you can totally do in a classroom, which is amazing, is the flashlight. So if we go back to what I said earlier about attention is not the ability to focus long-term, it's the ability to refocus. So if we were to sit here right now, let's just sit here. I'm going to time this for 30 seconds. And I want you to only breathe in and out through your nose. That's all I want you to focus on. That's it. Nothing else. Just focus on breathing in and out through your nose. So we're going to go and do this. So everybody who's on, and then I want to know what happened while you were doing this, how it went. So we're going to go 3, 2, 1. Okay, that was 30 seconds. Were you able to only focus on the breathing and that was it?
No.
How many
I
thoughts
tried.
went, right? Exactly. How many thoughts went off in your brain during that?
Well, I'm sitting in my classroom right now, so I tried to not turn around and look at all of the little messes that I have behind me, but I was thinking about them.
Right? And then did you bring yourself back to your breathing?
Yes, I kept trying.
Right.
Like
So that is,
refocus,
you have the
refocus.
ability to refocus.
Yes.
When a child is struggling with attention, they're struggling with the ability to refocus. So you might have a child that like read a lot of like board books or like really easy, simple, like one sentence books, little quick things. But as soon as you get to bigger books or chapter books, they don't like reading anymore.
Mhm.
And what it often is, not often, but one thing that it can be if attention is a struggle, is they can't keep refocusing on the page. So they can't get the information into their brain.
Got it.
So if we change the thought of we need to increase their attention to how do we train their brain's ability to refocus? Okay. So that's where we're going to think of this as a flashlight. Okay. So you're going to teach the kids about a flashlight. You can bring in a real flashlight, turn out the lights and go, where's my flashlight pointing? And then you can turn on the lights and go, okay, now where are you looking? And they go all over. They're going to look at everything. And then turn the lights off again and go, now where's my flashlight? And you're only focusing on one thing. And then you start using, you can actually do a craft is too with the younger kids of where they actually create their own flashlight. They can paper however you want to do it, drawing, cut them out, however it is. They make their own flashlight. And then their flashlight sits on their desk. And when you're doing things, you can point their flashlight where the flashlight needs to go. And then whenever you start using the language in class, so it's not like, hey, you pay attention. It's, hey, Jennifer, hey, Jennifer, where's your flashlight supposed to be shining right now? And they'll have to stop and think, what did you ask of me? What am I supposed to be doing? Oh, I'm supposed to be listening to you. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, point your flashlight there. Let's do this. Great job. Always congratulate them because what you're doing is you're retraining their brain and training it and teaching it to focus, refocus. So it has to go through those questions in their mind of like, what were we doing? And if they don't remember, then don't give them the answer. You reflexive questioning going, okay, look at the other kids or like, what is on your desk or what are we supposed to be doing, and reflexive questioning so that they start learning how to start asking themselves the questions to be able to refocus.
I
Does
like
that help?
that.
Yeah. So then you're always, where's your flashlight? And then what you'll start finding in a classroom, because this is, I know like classrooms that do this, is the other kids will sometimes say, instead of like, "Psst," or whatever, they'll go, where's your flashlight? Right? And it'll go, oh yeah. And they'll help. So they actually start helping each other, but in a positive way. And it starts getting that framework in their brain as the school year is going of where should my flashlight be shining? They're not getting in trouble, right?
Right.
They're learning a skill. And you teach this flashlight thing, go, isn't it so easy to just, when you turn on the lights, isn't it so easy to just look at everything? Like when I have this flashlight on, how hard is it to focus on this one thing? But when I turn the lights off, I can. So you teach them this isn't easy to do. So when people are telling you to keep focusing and doing things, no, it's not easy. So we're going to spend our whole school year on learning how to use your flashlight. We're going to strengthen it just like we strengthen our muscles. We're going to strengthen that part of our brain. And so they want to strengthen it. So you can just, even if the class is totally off on one day or whatever, okay, just like, okay, guys, we seem to not be doing our flashlight. What can we be doing? And you teach them too that the breath work. And some of the kids might say, we should do breathing now. And you're like, yeah. Because if you stop and do 3 minutes of breathing with them, it will clear their whiteboard, calm them down, and then they'll be able to use their flashlight. So you're blending all of those together in a classroom over time of teaching these kids the skills of what do they do when they're losing focus. So then when they do get older and start doing their homework at home and that, and they see that they're losing focus, or they're trying to do a chore that they're asked and they're losing focus, they start reflexive questioning and asking themselves, where's my flashlight supposed to be shut? Okay, I'm struggling. What do I do? Oh, I can stop and do a breathing for a second, and then I can do this. So you're starting to build up that memory and teach them that this is a superpower. You can even have like a superhero on the flashlight and like play it all up and do all these fun things with it. So that it doesn't become a negative, it becomes something that we are going to, as a classroom, learn how to have the focus. And oh, this is a really good thing for kids. They want to always be go older. They want to be better. They want to like do what the older kids are doing.
Mhm.
So we're going to learn how to be able to use our flashlight better than the grade ones. Right? So it's helping them to be like, okay, so we probably have our flashlight okay for kindergarten, but do you think we could do it like a grade one does it? And then just play with it and keep going with that. I don't know if that's helpful.
It is very helpful. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Any other questions?
I can't think of another right now. Oh, I do have one thing. I had the last time that I was on, I had written down a name that you had mentioned, and that right now I'm not even sure. Tara
Tara Sumpner, Seeds of Learning.
Okay, thank you.
So Sumpter, Sumpter. So Sumpter.
Okay.
So she is the speech and language pathologist. So I think I recommended it because you're a teacher. So she's who
Oh,
I
sure.
all of the executive functioning piece out of. Her course just opened up again. It only opens up twice a year. So I'm just going to give you a heads up. I think it's only $47 a month. So it's for teachers and coaches, therapists, SLPs. So it's for them. And it's teaching you how to do. She actually has really been focusing more on what to do for teachers in classrooms. So this
Wow.
flashlight thing was hers. I will give her full credit. That's why I mentioned it before too. Yes. So she's the one that taught this flashlight one. She actually has been hired by like schools. One school in New York has her teaching all of the teachers how to do all of this in their classroom. So
Oh
she's
my
been creating
gosh.
content specific for teachers. So that would be great for you. That's why I recommended it as a teacher. But she only opens up twice a year. So 47 a month, even if you can't start it right now, go like that's fine.
Yeah.
But it starts in July. Where she goes through every single week and starts teaching you like how I did you see how I showed you the executive functioning levels? I have my
Yeah.
Kindle. She teaches those from the base up, each individually, and how to be bringing that into your classroom.
Wow.
Yeah, so I would highly recommend it. If you're even hesitant about can I do this, I would say at least pay the $47 for the first month. You can cancel it at
Yeah.
any time and just see if it is or isn't for you. But I have a feeling you're going to be like loving it.
Oh my gosh, it sounds amazing.
Full of other teachers too. She has interviews with actually some kindergarten teachers that have made their whole classroom executive functioning based and
Whoa.
can't believe the difference in the kids. Like her kids are the ones that are like behaved in the halls and doing all these things. And the other teachers are like, how are you doing this? But it's all using Tara Sumpner's stuff in her classroom. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I will definitely look her up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Does anybody else have any other questions? I know there's a bunch of other people on here today too. If you can't unmute too, just let me know. I can there's a button I can push to help you. But if anybody else has a question too, they can fire it off. If not, I'll finish this other question that I had here. Here, you know what I will do too? I'll put the seeds of learning in the and I'll answer this last question that I was answering before. Yeah, seedsoflearning.org would be the web link. No, that's not it. That's not it. Hold on, let me go Tara Sumpner. Oh, it's probably under her name. There we go. Tara Sumpner, Seeds of Learning. And this is it. Okay, I'm putting this in the chat for you. Just Google Tara Sumner, Seeds of Learning. And yeah, that's for teachers, coaches, everything. She's phenomenal. Okay, so the other question I had that I was working on is, everyone says my child's smart, but they keep melting down at school. What's going on? So my pleasure. So with the executive function, we said there's the academic piece, there's the executive functioning. The executive functioning side is the one that helps with attention, as we just spoke about. It helps with perception. It helps with, oh my goodness, like at all of these pieces, it helps with them getting started on things. So if a child is struggling to get started, if a child is very black and white thinking, like the perfectionism, the fear of making mistakes, that may interfere with so much of their schoolwork, and they might have huge meltdowns at school, even though, academically they can do this. But I know I have somebody I've been working with recently where their child does this math, what's it called, Excel math or something, and like you need to get a certain amount of questions right, and you need to get to a leaderboard, and this child just feels they need to be the top of the leaderboard all the time, and if they don't, like, they feel like they're a failure, and it's all getting these points and getting these challenges that is actually having the child melt down, and fear of actually making any mistake on this at all, because when they make a mistake, the program says, and this is my one child, the program actually says, like, nope, you didn't get that right, or that was wrong. Like, we were trialing out this math class for my son, and he was supposed to do the assessment, and he did the first two questions. He's like, no, this, they think I'm stupid. I was like, I won't do this. Is like, because whatever it said after was supposed to be positive, like, hey, you didn't get that. Do you want to try again? Or do you want us to give you an easier question? He's like, I don't want an easier question. And he was melting down. Has nothing to do with the academic, nothing. My child in grade 3 tested grade 8 level math, but he struggles to get the answers on paper. He struggles with more than one question at a time. He struggles with having more than one question at a time, getting about problems where it's actually like all written out and something's ambiguous a little bit. Struggles with that. But if you ask him the questions in a way that his brain's going to handle it in his head, kid's friggin' smart, but he can't get the information out the way that the teacher is. So quite often when you see that this kid like dives deep into history or deep into geology or any sciences or maths or whatever it is, and they're struggling with their schoolwork, that's where I would always dive into the executive functioning piece, which, as I was saying, that's where I've studied all under Tara Sumner in order to be helping and teach kids that piece, as we're bringing in all these other pieces of their stress system, the nervous system, and how they handle stress, and giving them tools from all those aspects. And then also I bring in the traumas, because what we find with kids that get things really quickly, really easily, is all of a sudden when they can't, it becomes a trauma, because a trauma is something that's too fast, too soon, too much. When you were not expecting it to happen, it becomes a trauma. So when they're able to get things so easily in their life, and then all of a sudden they go to school and a teacher asks them to do something and they can't, that can become a trauma. So then they get this trauma with perfectionism, with fear of making mistakes. So you can be working on the executive functioning system, but because the executive functioning system may have struggled for so long, or they've been masking it, then their stress system also gets taxed. And so their stress system becomes so strong that they kick into it all of the time. And if you keep trying to help them with executive functioning, they may keep melting down from things until you've helped to regulate their nervous system a little more and give them some bandwidth and breadth to be able to then help that executive functioning system. And if there are traumas, to be able to help them with those traumas, so that you can then work on the skills that they need in order to be able to understand that mistakes are good and mistakes are how we learn and how we do things. So there's always different pieces to the puzzle, but if they're melting down, I would first start to look at their executive functioning system, and I would be supporting their nervous system more. Kids who often are academically ahead are often may visually, auditorily take in so much information as well that can be overwhelming and tax their nervous system at the same time as being their superpower, and all the stuff that they can actually see and do in the world, but they need to figure out that balance and how to modulate it, how to turn that dial when they don't need it. and when to turn it up when they need it so that it doesn't tax their system all of the time. All right. We are about it for time. If there's anybody else that has a question from here, let me know. I know you guys are all silent. I know that a lot of you have, I've been hearing from parents too, just the struggle with the anonymity, with not wanting anything from your kids coming out. So I don't have your pictures pinned here. So if anybody asks a question, it will be there. If it's in the chat, nobody will even be able to hear your voice, but you can also just pop your voice on. So if nobody has any questions, I am going to log off for today. I will send this out to everybody. We have been getting more and more people on these calls, which has been great. So I'm going to, I think I have them scheduled out for the rest. Awesome, thanks. So somebody's learned a lot, that's amazing. Any questions, just ask. So I'm not gonna say your names just for anonymity, but like fire me off an email if you have questions. Ask things in the chats too. If you have questions, I'm always more than open to help. I'll send out the replay, and there's a week or two in July that I'm not doing just because of summer fun stuff. But most weeks for June, July, I do have these all scheduled out. So ask me your questions, fire them off in emails, and I am more than happy to help. And if anybody does want, I do have 30-minute calls that you can hop on. I'll post the link. They're on my website too, Andi Clark, andywithani.com. You can just book a call with me and ask me your questions. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, then I'm available for that as well. All right. Take care, everybody. And I'm here. Oops, somebody just asked a question. Sometimes when my daughter has a big emotion, I try to get her to tell me what's going on, but she often says, I'm not going to tell you, or I don't want to tell you. What should I do? Okay. So can I ask their age, if you don't mind? Like, are they little? Like, because that could make a difference too. 9. Okay. So 9 years old, there could be different things as well going on with that. So at the beginning of this call, there was a piece that you may have missed that'd be super helpful, because I know you came on halfway through, was where we were talking about the stress system and kind of being in that, oh, you might have hopped on for part of it, with the hurricane and the eye of the storm. She may seem after the big emotion like she's still good, but she might be in the eye of the storm and she still is in a hurricane going herself, and she can't tell you. It could also be that they don't know how to label it. So when you ask them something like, what's going on, that's a really big, ambiguous question, right? So that is where what I would start doing with somebody too is, okay, another thing that we have to also acknowledge is the Coke bottle analogy. So when a stressor happens, we think of this, everything that happens in your day. Let's say you wake up and you're struggling to focus to get ready, right? And then a kid is going to eat, but whatever is being given to them doesn't sensory work within their mouth, or the taste was off for them. All this, Coke bottle shakes, trying to pack their bag to get ready for school, but their brain maybe can't remember all the stuff that goes in their bag, even though it's the same things every week, every day. And they're Coke bottle shakes. They go to the schoolyard, it's really, really loud, maybe too loud for them, or they're taking too much internally and visually. Coke bottle shakes. So we have to think all of these things are Coke bottle shakes before the Coke bottle explodes. So once it explodes, there's been all of these shakes that have happened before it. So when you're also asking them why they had that big emotion, they may not understand that it could have been from all of the things that happened during their day or yesterday. Maybe they didn't have a great sleep. Maybe it was like something not understanding with a friend, or maybe they're in clownfish and they're worrying about a test that's going on, or worrying about making a mistake, or they're masking certain executive functioning struggles, which a lot of kids do. A lot of girls mask a lot more than boys do. So that's always something to dive into. If you're up for a book I would suggest is, and it's going to have the word autism in it, and I'm not suggesting it because of autism at all. The book Is This Autism by Donna Henderson. And the reason I suggest it is they talk about how much girls mask. And where I'm struggling with this book and the autism is because I work with executive functioning. And I'm like, okay, a lot of the stuff that they're mentioning for masking is actually executive functioning skills. Now, I know autism's a spectrum and all of that, but, and I don't know where it starts and where it ends, but there's a lot of kids like I've worked with where we can start working on those executive functioning skills once we've realized they're there, which we have to uncover sometimes a lot of masking in those kids to understand if the executive functioning struggles are there. And once we do, we can get it so that we actually are strengthening that executive functioning part of their brain and they're good. I think the difference between that and autism is that sometimes with autism, you can help some of those executive functioning pieces, but there's certain parts that those kids always need a roadmap. It's not intuitive to them, whereas some kids we can, you know, help them with the masking and that part of the brain so that it actually becomes intuitive. That part of their brain does become stronger. So in this book is this autism. What I really, really, really like is it gives lists of how kids mask. There is an entire chapter about how girls mask. And so you might find reading that book that your daughter might be masking certain things that that part of her brain is maybe kind of struggling with a little bit and needs a little bit of support with. And that will help you understand how her Coke bottle's shaking. But then there's also other things, right? There's the sensory struggles, which still is actually mentioned in that book as well. There's the physical struggles too. There could be something nutritional. She may not be having great sleeps. Could be all of these things that keep shaking her Coke bottle that she may not even know at all what it is that is causing the end explosion. Because once that Coke bottle finally gets enough shakes, it explodes, that we don't know what all of those shakes are. So that's when we start breaking it down even further to go and figure out the different signs that somebody feels before they're having stress. So that would be a better question that I would ask your daughter instead of what's going on. I would say, today, did you feel any of these in your body? And I would ask, I have these written down. I have them somewhere. Oh yeah, here we go. So I have a whole list of these. Like it's crazy. I'm just going to read them out to you. So physical cues. She might feel a tightness in the chest or the throat where she feels like she can't breathe or swallow, heart racing or pounding, stomach aches, nausea, butterflies, muscle tension, especially in her shoulders or jaw or her fists, fidgeting, relentlessness, so she can't sit still, legs are bouncing, flushed cheeks or feeling hot, clenched fists or jaw, shallow or rapid breathing, sudden headache or fatigue, trembling hands or voice, dry mouth, cold hands or feet. Those are the physical. So what I would do is give her the list and say, did you feel any of these today and when? Now there's emotional. They might feel overwhelmed or something was like too much all at once. Sudden irritability, snapping at small things. She might have felt shame or embarrassment rising really fast in her, like hours before. Sense of panic or dread with no clear reason. She might feel out of control, frustration that things aren't going as planned, sensitivity to tone of voice, facial expressions, or criticism from others. She might have felt that all during the day, like way at the start of her day. Cognitively, she might have had racing thoughts or an inability to focus. She might have had an inner monologue saying like things like, I can't do this, or what if I mess up? So if she even says, what if I mess up? Or, oh, what if I make a mistake? That's a Coke bottle shaking. And that could have been way earlier in her day in the class. All or nothing thinking where everything's going wrong, or a sudden memory blank where she's like, I forgot what I was doing. Difficulty processing or understanding instructions, feeling stuck or frozen. Then we have behavioral cues, withdrawing or shutting down, refusing to talk or make eye contact, avoiding tasks or people, repeating the same question or seeking reassurance, becoming unusually controlled or rigid, quick change in mood or going quiet, starting to pace, pick at the skin, bite nails, or tug hair or clothes. So these are things that I would even have as a list to go over with her and be like, did you feel any of these today or all of them? And she might go through and be able to tick them off, go when. And when she felt them, go, what were you doing at that time? So these are more direct questions so that you can actually find out what she was doing at the time that these feelings started happening. And you'll know that those were the shakes of the Coke bottle. Those were the stress. And those were the things that led up to the explosion. Because she is not going to understand once it's exploded, like, why the heck did that explode? Right? Because she may not have noticed the signs of all of these shakes of the Coke bottle. Okay. Does that help? Yeah. Yeah. The list. Oh, the list and the author. Okay. So the list, I can add that in the email. Okay. So what I'll do is when I send the email out tomorrow, I'll give my my stress list, and the book is it autism. So the book, again, I'll just put that here for you now so you have it. Is this autism? And I would honestly just read the chapter to start with of the girls who mask. Donna Henderson. There we go. Okay. Donna Henderson. Okay. What? Oh, sorry. I didn't copy again. Oh. It's weird. Okay. Try that again. Here we go. Is This Autism by Donna Henderson. Okay. So that's the book. I did .com because I'm assuming you're in the States. Should have done, I'm Canada, so I should have done CA. But yeah, that's the book. Honestly, like, I would more look at it to see how she's masking. And that would also help you with more questions. When your questions, always ask them with curiosity and with this kindness and caring, not with a like, hey, are you feeling this? Just be like, hey, this is a really cool list. Do you want to go through this list with me and see if any of these things you feel? Because this might be where some of your outbursts are going, and this will help us to help you, right? Oh, you're in Canada? Okay, let me get you a CA. So Donna Henderson is actually from Toronto, the writer of the author of this book. There you go. So yeah, it's such a great book. Well, it's kind of a boring book at sometimes because it's written in the therapeutic speak and stuff. The first whole chapter, I would say, just totally don't even listen to the first chapter. It's all about, this is how we're going to explain. We're going to say a person with autism for these reasons, and we're going to say an autistic person another, and this is why. And it just went into all of their rules and regs and things that they could get into trouble for, or like basically all their rules and guidelines. So I would not even do the first chapter. I would totally just go to the one that actually, I think the chapter says masking for girls. There's a whole entire chapter on it, and I think it has lists. I did the audio, but I'm going to assume the way that I was listening, it sounded like it just had lists of the things that the girls would mask with. That is so fascinating. Cool. All right. I need to get going. But yeah, any questions, absolutely let me know. I will send this recording out tomorrow, and I'll add those other things that we did talk about. And yeah, any questions, just fire me off emails if you have. support@andiclark.com, Andi with an I, or yeah, just ask me questions, book a call. I'm more than willing to help anybody at any time. All right. See ya. Bye.